There it goes. That's better. All right, guys, sorry about that. I had to change some stuff up. I was getting a huge glare from behind me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get started. I know no one's on, but I'm going to do this anyway. Instead of filming it all, editing it, and spending all this time doing this, I want to talk about planning a trip and getting ready to go on a trip. I'm actually leaving in a little under a week to South Dakota for a huge four-wheeling event, Rock Fest. And there's a lot of different steps and a lot of different things that I'm doing to get ready for it. Now, it's just like Easter Jeep Safaris or Trail of Honor, any other huge event. I know Jeep Jamboree, they have requirements. So anytime you're going into an event, the first thing I like to do is I like to go in and I actually look at the trails. I look at the trails that I'm going on. I try to YouTube them, I look at them, I see how rough they are. I do that for any trails that I go on. I always like to scout it out. I always like to look into it. Kind of like, I think of it as a football player or a wrestler or anyone else. If you're gonna go up against something, you wanna know what you're going up against and what kind of competition you have. Well, the competition when you're four-wheeling, in my opinion, is the terrain. It's what you're putting your rig through, and it's seeing if you're ready for it and if your rig's ready for it. And if you don't have the adequate gear or the adequate machine, you need to either A, adjust where you're going, or B, adjust your machine. So, and be ready for it, of course. So first thing I do is, like I said, I go on YouTube, I check out the videos, I try to find whatever I can. South Dakota, unfortunately, doesn't have a lot of videos out there yet for where I'm going. It's some of the trails, it's Got Milk, Fruity Pebbles, Captain Crunch, kind of weird, but they look pretty rough. They look pretty vicious. So I'm excited for that, but it's still going to be pretty hard. What's up, man? How you doing, Team SUV? So I already started a little bit. I'm just talking about planning a trip, going on a trip, and if you're going to a huge SUV or Jeep event, first thing I like to do, like I said, was look at scout it out, see what the trails have to offer. Sorry, I missed that last one. I don't look at the camera. Hey, yeah, Outlaw, how you doing? Yeah, I decided to plan this one a little bit. I have a huge script that I was writing, and I decided, heck with that, I'm just gonna go live, answer questions, and do it this way. So when I go on trips, I do scout it out. I look at the trails, see if I can watch some videos on it. But the next thing I do is I look at where I'm going. For example, when you go to Southern Missouri Off-Road Ranch, it's frozen. I'm not sure why it's frozen. I am not sure. I'm not sure if Outlaw is watching or not, if it's working. Okay. Outlaw said he's okay. Cool. So the next thing I do is when I'm going to a off-road park, for example, where I live in Wyoming, Colorado. If the trail's open, you can go on it. If it's not open, you can't. Sometimes you might have to get an OHV tag, an off-road vehicle tag. Other times, you don't. But when you go like to S'more, Missouri, if you go to Hot Springs Off-Road Park, some of those other places, not only do you have to worry about getting some of those tags, but you also have to make sure that the business is open itself. I wasn't even aware that was even a thing. So when I went last summer and I went to S'more, I had to schedule it with the business. They only were open on weekends. So they let me come in on Wednesday and let me wheel by myself. So if you're planning a trip anywhere, make sure that where you're going, one, you have an OHV tag. Two, if it's some sort of park that's privately owned, make sure you can get into it and see how much it costs, things like that. Those are important things to look at. Also, if you're going to an event, like I'm going to South Dakota, the event itself also has requirements. Boom, it's working out, cool. So like Rock Fest in South Dakota, they require me, I'm gonna grab it. So one thing that require is you have to have a fire extinguisher that's appropriately mounted, which I'm putting it in. I had one, I moved it, so I got to put it back in. Also, you have to have a functional jack. With that being said, 2 weeks ago, I almost broke my jaw. Got a nice scar here now. I was using my high lift jack. It jammed up on me, popped up, hit me in the chin, dang near knocked me out. Went to the emergency room, spent a good 6-7 hours in the emergency room. Didn't need stitches, but they were scared that I jammed my jaw. I'm going to be going and seeing an oral specialist on it to make sure everything's lined up. But with that being said, the event in South Dakota does require a functional jack. So because that jammed up on me, I'm going to get rid of my high lift. And I actually am switching to this. It's actually a combo between a bottle jack and the A-frame. And you can adjust this to where it's higher or lower. It actually does work on my Jeep. And it's tall enough even for a lifted Jeep like mine. So I'm using that. So you want to make sure that whatever event you're going to, you meet those requirements. I know that Jeep Jamboree in Wyoming anyway, other ones that may have different rules, but in Wyoming, you have to have 35s. You can't have 37-inch tires, or they won't let you go on the trails. They want to conserve and make sure you're not tearing too much nature up. I'm going to look at that last question. I will definitely keep the live chats coming. Thanks for joining Outlaw. It'll be here to come back and watch. I'll probably be doing this for 30 to 40 minutes. Got a lot of different little things I want to talk about. So yeah, make sure you have the requirements. They also require a functional winch. They also tow points. What else do they require? Oh, when you're going and you're planning on trips, I'm planning on another one to Trail Heroes. You have to read it and make sure that your rig meets each individual trail requirements. So a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to go to this event and hang out and have fun. No, you have to sign up. You have to sign up for the trail. You have to make sure your rig meets those requirements. Mine, I signed up for a couple of them that require 37s, but I talked to them because of the things I've done to my Jeep, and they're allowing me to go on with 35s. Should be fun. A little nervous, but it should be good. I'm going to look at my notes real quick because, like I said, I do have a ton of stuff I want to talk about. Any other special requirements like permits, tire size, fire extinguishers, lockers. A lot of events require lockers. Yeah, again, not every event has requirements. Again, this is just something I've been running into with going to different four-wheeling parks or different events. So, and it's something that I never even knew about. I know that like when I went to S'more, another thing you want to look into is maps and see what they offer, if they offer any type of navigation. Some places in Colorado, you can download an app and use a phone for navigation for a GPS. What are the hours of operation? If you're going to a privately owned, you want to know that. What days of the week? You don't want to go there and then they're closed. Also, the thing that I also have always overlooked is a lot of times, as you guys have seen, I've gone to a lot of different four-wheeling in the last year, 14, 15 different states four-wheeling, and the majority of the time it's by myself. So you can go and hit a trail and you can drive for, I don't know, 3-4 hours and be done. And you're done by lunch, you're cool, you can go back to, go back to camp, have a brewski or whatever, or you can keep four-wheeling, whatever. I normally go back, have lunch, leave again. Well, with events, it doesn't work that way. There's over 100 people signing up for 4 days of wheeling. We're not gonna have 100 people on one trail. We're gonna divide that up, probably 25 people per trail. So what would normally take you 3 to 4 hours is now gonna take probably 7 to 8 hours, maybe even longer. So you wanna make sure that when you go on these long events, you're packing something to eat. You're keeping it to where Roush Creek uses Maprika. Yeah, like I said, I know in Colorado they use a lot of GPSs. But you want to make sure that you're packing lunch, you're packing food, you're packing a snack, not only for that day to eat, but heaven forbid if something were to happen and you're stuck out on the trail, there might be more people and maybe they have food, but you want to make sure you have stuff for yourself and anyone else in your party. Also, another thing that I don't do, but I know it's very popular in Moab. I'm getting this off the screen. Is night riding, going out on the trails during the night. You want to make sure that, and this is a good transition into segue into my next segment is getting your Jeep ready, getting your rig ready for what you're going to be doing. So I'm not going out on any night rides at all this trip. So I'm not going to worry about my floodlights. I'm not going to worry about any of that. I only have one anyway, and it hasn't been hooked up since I rebuilt my Jeep. I will be hooking it up, but it's not something I'm stressing over. I'm not losing sleep over. But if you're going on a night trip, you want to make sure all your lights on your rig is working. I've checked my winch, made sure I had my tow straps, I made sure my air compressor is working. I've gone through pretty much everything already. It's about a week in advance. I have a pile of stuff over here that I'm going to be packing. I actually have my 4x hose system to deflate and to inflate my tires over here that I'm going to pack. What I'm waiting on is I got a flatbed trailer I'll be showing you guys later in a different video. And I'm building I'm having a diamond plated aluminum toolbox modified so I can fit it on the front. Once that's done and I have it bolted on, then I'll be putting some of this stuff in that toolbox. But that's the only reason why it's sitting out and it's not already packed and ready to go. So you want to make sure you have the food. You want to make sure you have that. You want to make sure your rig's ready. When I get to wherever I'm going and the weather is sufficient, it's nice, I always take off my doors. And this is for me. So what I do is I don't have a great place to store my doors. If my wife's with me, she doesn't want me to have them in the RV. So what I do is I actually take a long lock, I run it through and I lock it to my RV and I leave them outside. And that's what I did in Moab. It worked great. That's what I'll do again. I went through, I've gotten everything underneath tightened. I did a quick check underneath the Jeep, make sure it has everything's good to go. Marked it all that way. If something comes loose, I can get a quick eye on it just to see if, and I can tighten it back up. I checked my tires. I did a rotation. I got an oil change. Everything's good to go with the Jeep. But it's these things that a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to throw a bunch of crap in my Jeep and go out four-wheeling today. Yeah, you can, but if you're ready for stuff and something happens, you're going to be more prepared. Yeah, this is probably sounds like a Debbie Downer way to think. Grabbing my soda, sorry. But I was in the Marine Corps, and in the Marines, I just talked to my son, he said the same thing. You always expect the worst. Not saying you want it, but when you expect it and you prepare for it, you're ready for it. And that's the bottom line, is if you get stuff ready and you work to be ready for these unexpected events, then it works better. I'm going to try to move this camera down a little bit. I feel like I'm just getting my head. There it goes. I'm using my gimbal with my cell phone, so sorry, there we go. Yeah, so you can see I'm not taking my gas tank. None of this I'm taking, actually. It's all over here, but I have my tow strap. I have extinguisher tools, all sorts of other gear laid out over on this side. So what else is on my list here I want to talk about? Sorry, I'm reading everything. I'm going to check for any chats here real quick. Come on. There it is. Nothing. Okay, cool. If you have any questions, holler, because I will answer whatever you want. Oh, yeah, heck. I didn't even think about this, because I want a controller for my winch. I desperately want one that's a remote control one, wireless, but I don't have that yet. So with that, that's why it's not even in my brain. With that, if you have a wireless winch, make sure you're checking your batteries. Make sure you're also charging all your handheld radios. Make sure you check your CB if you have a CB. There are so many things that, as a wheeler, that we have to do to make sure that we're safe, and to make sure our family's safe. And I think that's huge. The amount of crap that I've got to get done with this Jeep that I've already done, but I will. Thank you again. I appreciate it. I will be careful. I'll be going live again when I'm at camp. So stay tuned for that one. That'll be next Tuesday night. I'll be doing another one. So I'll probably do it a little later in the evening because we have a meeting Tuesday before all the wheeling starts. And I think that's like at between 5 and 8 p.m. And then after that, well, I'll look that up and I'll post it so you guys can know when I'm going live again. And then after that, it's just going to be videoing and having fun and tearing crap up. So, yeah, I appreciate you coming in, watching it a little bit. Like I said, this isn't going to be a huge video. I just want to touch base on some of those things that I think people overlook when they're four-wheeling. So I'm going to go through it real quick again. Check, make sure that wherever you're going, the hours of operation, make sure there's no other expectations, whether it's tire size, lockers, winch, jack. There's so many different things. You want to read those, make sure not only for the company or the event you're going to, but also each individual trail, and make sure you're meeting those requirements. And make sure that your vehicle is safe, make sure you're safe, make sure you're healthy, make sure you're eating appropriate, the food, bring something to eat. I went and bought a smaller cooler because normally, like I said, I normally have my daughter with me and a couple other people. If I go four-wheeling or I don't pack because it's just myself, I get back to camp early and eat lunch, then we go out and hit another trail. But when you're going with a big group, it can take all day. It can sometimes, unfortunately, you can get stuck in the woods and come back pretty late. So you definitely want to make sure you're being healthy. What else? Besides, like I said, these are beyond the basics, like the food, clothing, meds, whatever else you may need to be comfortable in camp. You want to definitely start making lists early. I started mine. I always have notebooks ready, and I'm always jotting junk down as far as what I may need. Reading through here, make sure I'm not forgetting anything. You also want to make sure that you're meeting also any state laws. If you're traveling through anywhere, that's why I never got bead locks. I've always read on forums and different things like that, is if you're driving particular states, don't allow bead locks. Now, I can sit here and look at probably 100 different Jeepers and know that they live in every state in the union and they all have bead locks. And how does that work? Well, either they get away with it or they don't get pushed for it. But what I've been told is if you get pulled over and you have bead locks on and it's illegal, they'll leave your vehicle right there until you can put it on a trailer and tow it out. And that's part of the reason why I switched to the flatbed trailer, beyond the wear and tear on the tires and everything else that it can do. I've always given, I've said this before, but I've always given people crap about pulling a Jeep on a trailer, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. You don't want to have all that extra wear and tear. Plus, if you're wheeling hard, heck, look at my snow bashing one back when I went with the wheelers for the wounded. There was a guy that broke his rear axle shaft, and he wasn't going to get home. And luckily, someone was at the trailhead that had a flatbed. They let him load it up and pulled him back to Denver on it. So you want to make sure that what you're taking and what you're doing is going to actually be adequate and cover it for you. That way, you can be safe while you're out there on the trail. Anyway, I do appreciate you guys watching. I know there's not a lot on. I think everyone's logged off. I'm close up now. I can't think of anything else about it, so I just wanted to do a quick one. Again, I will be going live again in South Dakota after the meeting, just real quick, just to touch base on what's going on, and then I'll be filming a lot more there. I'm going to probably get 1 or 2 more videos out before I leave to South Dakota next Tuesday. But thank you again for watching. If you haven't clicked subscribe, please do so. I greatly appreciate any help growing this channel. Also, click the bell, that way you can be notified of any new content, and make sure you're leaving a better than you found it. Thanks again. I'm out.